Gilberto Ramirez stops Yunieski Gonzalez in the 10th round and then calls out Dimitri Bivol. Now, Gonzalez has never been your typical Cuban, as in slick, good counterpuncher, etc. He's always been more rudimentary than that. A big, strong, tough light heavyweight who applies a lot of pressure and throws a lot of punches. He fell short in several previous fights against Jean Pascal back in 2015. He dropped a 10-round unanimous decision there, although I vaguely remember there being some controversy about the scoring of that fight. You guys jog my memory in the comments below. Was that a controversial decision for Pascal? In the fight after that, in the same year, he lost again to Shabransky on a majority decision over 10 rounds. He then bounced back with a couple wins in 2016 before running into Alexander Vozdek in 2017, where he was stopped in 3. And that loss apparently affected him profoundly because he took 3 years out of the ring after that. And keeping on the theme of threes, when he did come back in 2020, he had 3 wins in a row against less than stellar opposition before this fight here against Gilberto Ramirez, which he obviously was hoping would be a springboard towards a world title shot. After a promising start in the first round, it all went downhill rather quickly for Yunieski Gonzalez. I think Ramirez was caught a little cold in the first round. He wasn't dropped or anything, but he just hadn't warmed up. He looked a little rusty or something. I don't know what it was, a little sleepy. And that first round where Gonzalez was really putting the heat on him was a wake-up call. And from the second, third, fourth round on, Ramirez got into his groove. And although Gonzalez was applying pressure and throwing shots, Ramirez was the far superior boxer. He was turning him all the time. He had the faster hands. He was moving his head, because in the first round, Ramirez really wasn't moving his head. But again, as the rounds progressed, he started moving his head. He was just loosening up, getting that stiffness out of his body, being more fluid in the southpaw stance, countering him all over the place. And there was a moment, I think it was in the 4th round or towards the end of the 4th round, where Gonzalez was in serious trouble. And it was very touch and go whether the ref was going to stop it at that point. And speaking of the ref, I thought he was unduly harsh on Yunieski Gonzalez. Ramirez, obviously a Mexican. The arena was full of Mexicans. I don't know if the referee was Mexican, but he certainly seemed to be favoring the house fighter here in Gilberto Ramirez, because Gonzalez put Ramirez in a headlock at one point, and the referee immediately deducted a point. It's like, seriously? That was the first infraction, and there was no warning or anything beforehand. Just straight away deducting a point. I thought that was poor from the referee. And there was a couple of other instances throughout the fight where, again, the referee was acting in a questionable manner, being biased in favor of Gilberto Ramirez. But hey, that's boxing, right? It likely wouldn't have made any difference because Ramirez was the far superior fighter. Once he got into his groove, he was just boxing the brakes off this guy. And Gonzalez tried real hard, showed tremendous bravery, as he always does, and toughness, but he was several levels below Gilberto Ramirez in all truth. And even though I'm making the fight sound like it was one-sided, because of the bravery and the heart of Yunieski Gonzalez, it was still entertaining. It may have been an easy fight for Gilberto Ramirez in terms of what it looked like on the judges' scorecards, but in the ring, Yunieski Gonzalez is a big, tough, physically strong, determined man. So it's never going to be easy in terms of the actual physical battle, even if you win in the rounds. He's never been a big one-punch knockout guy, Gonzalez. So you never got the sense, or at least I didn't, that he could turn it around with one punch. There were moments where he steadied Ramirez here and there, got his attention, but again, you never got the sense that he could drop him out of the blue or knock him out suddenly or anything like that. I felt like it was inevitable that Ramirez was either going to go on to a points win or stop the guy, which is what he ended up doing. Sometimes you feel sorry for a guy like Gonzalez because he is one of those blue-collar fighters who feels like, and perhaps in reality, never seems to get a break. Perhaps he should have got the nod over Jean Pascal back in the days, maybe even Shabransky. And if he had, maybe his career would have turned out different. I don't know. But he has the air of that type of fighter. You know, a fighter who never really gets the breaks in his career that some other fighters do. Perhaps some fighters that he himself could have beat got breaks where he didn't. He was very emotional after the fight, after taking a horrendous beating. Let's be real, in the end, he took loads and loads of punishment. He was consoled by Ramirez himself. You know, they had a lot of words. There was clearly a lot of respect there. And at 36 years of age, you wouldn't imagine that Gonzalez could really go anywhere at this point at light heavyweight, maybe step up to cruiserweight. You wouldn't imagine his success rate is going to be any better up there. The guys are bigger and stronger. His advantage surely at 175 is the fact that he is big and strong at the weight. If he moves up, the strength advantage isn't going to be there. Combine that with the relative lack of skill. I'm not saying he's, you know, the crudest fighter I've ever seen, but compared to the elite light heavyweights, he's not the most skillful fighter, is he? Where does he go from here? I don't know. A crossroads fight with his countryman Sullivan Barrera. Barrera's a better boxer than Yunieski Gonzalez. Not like he's Sugar Ray Leonard either, but he is a better boxer. And actually, Gilberto Ramirez beat him as well recently, didn't he? Anyway, overall, I thought it was a good performance. It's not always easy to look good against this kind of guy, a big, strong, physical guy who's going to put it on you, who's absolutely determined to win, who will not quit, especially when you're moving up from 168. I know Ramirez has been at 175 for a while now, but still, Yunieski Gonzalez, very, very physically imposing. And I thought Ramirez handled him pretty well for the most part. There were moments where he got hit a little too much, perhaps for my liking, and it was a bit of a slow start where he was kind of caught lacking in round one. But I thought overall it was a good performance once he got into his groove, found his range, his rhythm, his fluidity, the combination punching, the counter punching, the right hook was a nice shot for Gilberto Ramirez, as well as the straight left hand, going to the body at times. So overall, I thought it was a nice performance, and I would like to see Gilberto Ramirez get his wish against Dmitry Bivol. I'd like to see him against Bivol, Smith Jr., or even Artur Beterbiev. I think any of those fights are great, and of course, he's also targeting a fight with Canelo Alvarez, his countryman. I'm not sure how realistic that is at this stage. I don't really see why Canelo would fight him. He'd need to get hold of a belt first, and then that might be a possibility. Although Canelo has said in the past that he doesn't really want to fight Mexicans. I think he did say that, didn't he? When the prospect of him facing Jaime Munguia, for example, was raised, he said he wouldn't want to fight another Mexican. He's fought plenty of Mexicans in the past, so I'm not sure why this decision not to fight any Mexicans these days, you know, where that's coming from. He did, of course, fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He fought, God, who else did he fight? Did he fight Josecito Lopez at one point? He certainly fought Alfredo Angulo. He's fought loads of Mexicans in the past. I'm not really sure what that's all about, but I would like to see the Gilberto Ramirez fight. Apparently there was some sparring session back in the days where Ramirez did really well against Canelo, but you know, sparring is sparring. There's a lot more competition to be had and a lot more danger for Canelo Alvarez at 175 than there is in the ring against Ilunga Makabu, in my personal opinion. Not that Makabu doesn't present any danger, because he does, but he's not as technically proficient as the elite guys at 175. And Artur Beterbiev is a big, strong, powerful guy himself. Is he as big and strong and powerful as Makabu? I don't know, but if they were to fight, I would be picking Artur Beterbiev. I mean, Beterbiev fought guys as big as Makabu plenty of times in the amateurs and handled them no problems at all. But yeah, 175 I think is where it's at for Canelo. And Ramirez, if he can get hold of a belt, is surely in the mix. Now, the interesting thing, of course, is the subplot here is that Ramirez is with Golden Boy, and they are looking for a star to replace Canelo Alvarez. Those are obviously big shoes to fill. They've got Jaime Munguia, they've got Ryan Garcia, now they've got Gilberto Ramirez, who was previously with Bob Arum Top Rank. So the question is, will Canelo want to give Golden Boy that opportunity? Because their split was acrimonious. I mean, Canelo had nothing good to say about those guys when he left them. He didn't like the way they did business. He called out Oscar for his troubles outside the ring, which are well documented. And he immediately started calling Eddie Hearn the best promoter in the world by far. You know, so who knows whether that would be an obstacle in terms of Canelo facing the likes of a Gilberto Ramirez. But I've seen a lot of people in comment sections of my videos over the past couple years saying that Ramirez will be the guy to beat Canelo, or at least come closest. Let me know how you feel right now after watching him beat Yunieski Gonzalez in 10 rounds. Is he still the guy in your view? Has he ever been the guy in your view to beat Canelo Alvarez or give him the most problems? And how do you think he would fare against the current light heavyweight champions in Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, and Joe Smith Jr.? Would you pick him over one of them, two of them, any of them, all of them? Let me know in the comments below. And before I go, I want to leave you with this one line, again, following on with the words of wisdom, continuing on, should I say, with the words of wisdom at the end of videos. The line is, you can't comply your way out of tyranny. And for anyone who is still in denial about the fact that tyranny is fast encroaching, all I can say is your cognitive dissonance has now absolutely, unequivocally entered the realm of delusional psychosis. Take care, peeps.